have you ever, really stopped and thought about your relationship with money? Seriously.
Mm.
Do you sometimes feel like you're just running, working harder, maybe earning more, but still kind of chasing financial security?
That feeling of being on a treadmill, yeah. So many people feel that.
Exactly. And it brings up that huge question.
Hmm.
Are you spending your life working for money, or have you figured out how to get your money working for you?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It really is. And today, well, we're not just scratching the surface. We're doing a proper deep dive into a book that honestly shook things up for millions. Well, Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
A hugely influential book, really challenged conventional thinking.
Totally. So our mission here is to unpack its core lessons, those insights that sometimes feel, well, a bit surprising, maybe even uncomfortable.
Definitely provocative at times.
And those practical mindset shifts Kiyosaki talks about. Because, look, this isn't just about making more cash. It's about understanding the whole game of money.
Right. And learning the rules so you can actually play it effectively, maybe even win.
Precisely. Learning to play it to your advantage.
And what's really interesting about this source material is how it just directly confronts so much of what we're taught growing up about jobs, saving, investing.
All that traditional advice.
Exactly. It gives you this completely different lens to look through. Like, what really is an asset? What's a liability? It forces you to reevaluate.
It really does. And it pushes you towards a path for financial freedom that often looks, well, quite different from the standard career ladder approach.
Yeah.
It definitely makes you question things.
Deep-seated assumptions, absolutely.
And just so everyone knows, for this exploration, we're actually drawing from a really well-done, authentic summary of Kiyosaki's key teachings.
Ah, okay. So we're getting the concentrated wisdom.
Exactly. The distilled essence. No fluff, just the core ideas ready for us to, well, dig into.
Perfect. Where should we start? The two dads.
Yeah, let's start right there. Because that premise Kiyosaki sets up at the beginning. It's fascinating. He talks about this unique upbringing being shaped by two very, very different father figures.
Right. Both hugely influential, but in totally opposite ways when it came to money.
Completely. And this difference, this divide, it basically lays the foundation for everything else in the book.
It sets the stage perfectly.
So, okay, on one side, you've got his poor dad. Now, this was his actual biological father.
Yeah. The educated one.
Highly educated, PhD, professor, good government job.
Yeah.
You know, the picture of traditional success and security.
The kind of path most parents would probably want for their kids, right?
Absolutely. And his core advice, probably sounds familiar to a lot of us. Study hard, get good grades, find a secure job.
The standard playbook.
Totally. His whole belief system was built on earning money through hard work, staying within the established system, a good, stable job with benefits, maybe a pension. That was the ultimate goal, security.
And that narrative is just so deeply ingrained in our culture, isn't it?
It really is.
But what's so interesting and what Kiyosaki really drills down on is how accurately this reflects the advice most of us got.
Yeah.
And it makes you ask, well, if this is the accepted safe path, why do so many people following it still struggle financially, or at least feel stuck?
That's the kicker, right?
Kiyosaki's basically challenging that whole societal conditioning. He's suggesting, look, this path might feel secure, but it often leads to this lifelong dependency. You're always trading your time directly for money.
Your hours for dollars.
Exactly. And that inherently limits you. It makes you vulnerable if you can't work, for whatever reason.
Right. If the work stops, the money stops.
Precisely.
Okay, so then the contrast, the rich dad.
Yeah, this is where it gets really interesting.
This was his friend Mike's father.
Yeah.
And here's the twist. This guy dropped out of school after 8th grade.
Wow. So not the academic route at all?
Not even close. But despite that lack of formal schooling, he became one of the wealthiest people in Hawaii, built a business empire.
Incredible.
And his advice to young Robert, radically different, almost the exact opposite. He didn't say, get a secure job. He said, famously, don't work for money.
Teach money to work for you. That's the core phrase, isn't it?
That's the one. And it wasn't just talk. Rich Dad actually pulled Robert into the world of business, of investing, from a young age, showed him a completely different way to think about wealth.
Yeah, and if you zoom out and look at the bigger picture here, it's not just about, say, book smarts versus street smarts.
Oh, it's deeper than that.
It's about entirely different paradigms for creating wealth. One way, the poor dad way, seeks security through your own labor, your job, your paycheck.
Right, working in the system.
Exactly. The other way, the rich dad approach, seeks freedom. It seeks abundance through building systems, through acquiring assets,
Right.
things that make money for you even when you're not directly working.
So it's not just about earning income. It's about creating income streams, leveraging them.
Precisely, a fundamental shift in focus.
So this core conflict that Kiyosaki highlights, it's stark. These two ideologies are just worlds apart.
Completely different mindsets.
And he argues pretty forcefully that the poor dad mindset, with its focus on job security, the traditional career path,
Yeah.
it often leads people unintentionally into these financial traps.
The rat race he talks about?
Exactly. That endless cycle of working for money, paying bills, needing more money, working more, just treading water.
Exhausting.
Yeah. Whereas the rich dad mindset, with its emphasis on financial education, really understanding money, building assets, investing smartly, that's what builds real, lasting wealth.
And ultimately leads to financial freedom.
It's about being the conductor of your financial orchestra, maybe, instead of just playing one instrument.
That's a good analogy. You're in control directing things rather than just following the sheet music someone else wrote.
Okay, so now we get into the really juicy stuff, where Kiyosaki's ideas start to feel, well, different. He basically says that rich people aren't just earning more, they're playing a different game.
Right, a different set of rules for money.
Exactly. It's not just the amount, it's the rules you follow. So let's dive into some of these core rules he lays out.
Let's do it. The first one's a big one, right?
Oh, yeah. Rule number 1, probably the cornerstone of the whole thing. Money works for you, not the other way around. The rich don't work for money.
Okay, unpack that. What does working for money look like in this context?
Well, think about that poor dad mentality we just discussed. It's, I have to go to work so I can earn money. That's the wage earner mindset.
The default for most people.
Right. You trade your time, your skills, your energy for a paycheck. It's a direct exchange. But the critical point here, the breakdown, is simple. When you stop working, you get sick, you retire, whatever the money stops coming in.
It's linear. Your input directly equals your output. And when input stops.
Output stops, exactly. It's finite.
Okay, so what's the rich dad alternative then?
A rich dad mentality flips it. It asks, what can I create or what can I acquire that will put money in my pocket consistently, even if I'm not actively working on it right now?
Ah, so it's about decoupling your time from your income.
Precisely. That's the asset-building mindset. Wealthy people, according to Kiyosaki, aren't just focused on running the next paycheck. They're focused on strategically building systems, businesses, investments, things that generate income continuously.
Whether they're physically there or not.
Right. Whether you're sleeping, on vacation, the income keeps flowing. It's about setting up multiple streams that don't rely solely on your direct labor, minute by minute.
Okay, that makes sense. Does the source give an example?
Yeah, a really clear one. It says, imagine if you buy a house and rent it out. The rent you receive is passive income for you. You're not actively working for that money, but it's consistently flowing in. This is the magic Rich Dad teaches.
Simple but powerful. It illustrates the shift perfectly. You own something that produces income.
Exactly. It's not just about trading time anymore. You're building these income-generating machines, assets, as he calls them.
And this idea of passive income, it really is foundational to his whole philosophy, isn't it?
Absolutely. But it's often misunderstood.
How?
People sometimes think it means being lazy or finding some magic bullet.
Right, like you just sit back and money appears.
Yeah, but that's not it. It's about being strategic. It's deploying your resources, your time, your money, your knowledge smartly to create ongoing returns.
So it requires work up front, perhaps, to set things up.
Definitely. But the goal is to eventually have those setups working for you. Which brings up a really important question for anyone listening. What's the real difference, in Kiyosaki's view, between just working hard and working smart?
That's a crucial distinction because the poor dad path definitely involves working hard, right?
Oh, yeah. Long hours, climbing a ladder.
Yeah.
It's hard work.
It's undeniably hard work, trading your time for dollars. But working smart in the Kiyosaki framework means you direct that hard work and effort differently.
How differently?
You direct it towards building those systems we talked about, acquiring assets, creating income streams that eventually generate money without your constant direct labor.
So instead of just working in the machine, you're working on building the machine.
Exactly. That's a great way to put it. You're building something that then works for you. It's about leverage, long-term thinking, not just the immediate paycheck.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. And that idea flows right into the second big rule he emphasizes,
Which is?
Financial literacy is the key to real wealth. This isn't just about earning. It's about understanding money itself.
Knowing how it works.
Exactly. How it flows, how it grows, how to manage it so it serves your goals. Kiyosaki basically defines financial literacy as knowing how money works and how to make it work for you.
And central to that understanding are those two key terms.
Assets and liabilities. And his definitions here can be, well, a bit controversial for some.
Well, let's hear them. How does he define an asset?
Very simply, assets are things that put money in your pocket.
Okay. Straightforward. Examples.
The source gives good ones. Rented property bringing in rent. Stocks or bonds paying dividends or interest. Your own successful business generating profits. Or even intellectual property books, patents, software earning royalties.
So the common thread is they generate income for you.
Exactly. They feed your bank account, often without needing constant direct work once they're set up.
Okay, makes sense. Now, what about liabilities?
This is where it gets tricky for people. He defines liabilities as things that take money out of your pocket.
Okay, like what?
Examples he gives. A home loan, if you live in the house and it's not generating income.
Wait, so your own house isn't an asset?
Not according to this strict cash flow definition, because you're constantly paying out for the mortgage, taxes, insurance, upkeep. It takes money out of your pocket.
Okay. What else?
A car loan, or the car itself, really. It's always costing you money, petrol, insurance, maintenance, the loan payment. Credit card debt, obviously. Even expensive gadgets bought purely for consumption.
Basically anything that consistently drains your finances rather than adding to them.
Exactly. Which leads to this core mantra he repeats, and it's crucial. Rich people buy assets. Poor and middle-class people buy liabilities.
But they think they're buying assets. Wow. That hits hard.
It really does. Because it points to this huge psychological trap.
What trap is that?
We're conditioned to see things like our own car, or even our primary home, as assets. They're valuable things we own, right?
Yeah, that's the common understanding. My house is my biggest asset.
But Kiyosaki forces you to look purely at the cash flow. Does it put money in your pocket each month, or take it out if it takes money out?
It's a liability by his definition, even if it feels like an asset traditionally.
Exactly. And that requires this massive mental shift for people. You have to stop thinking about ownership in the traditional sense and start thinking about cash flow impact. Does this purchase move me closer to financial freedom or further away?
It forces a really critical analysis of your spending and acquisitions, rethinking the very definition of value.
Totally. Let's use that car example again, straight from the source, because it makes it so clear.
Okay.
Imagine you buy a brand new car. The moment it leaves the showroom, its value immediately begins to depreciate.
Right. Happens instantly.
It then consistently takes money out of your pocket for petrol, insurance, maintenance, and those monthly EMI payments. This is a liability.
No matter how nice the car is or how much you need it for transport, financially, it's a drain.
Precisely. On the other hand, the source continues, if you buy a small apartment and rent it out, the rent consistently puts money in your pocket. This is an asset.
So the key isn't the thing itself, but its financial function for you. Does it generate cash or consume cash?
You nailed it. That's the core distinction. Is it helping you build wealth or delaying it?
Okay, powerful stuff. What's the next rule?
Rule number 3, escaping the rat race.
Ah, yes. The famous rat race. How does he describe that?
He paints a pretty vivid picture. It's that endless cycle. Work, earn money, pay bills, then work again, often harder, to earn even more money just to keep up.
The hamster wheel.
Exactly. It feels relentless. So many people work harder, get promotions, earn more, but somehow their expenses just magically rise to meet the new income.
Lifestyle inflation. It's insidious.
Totally. So you feel like you're just maintaining, never really getting ahead, never building that real lasting wealth. Stuck.
So what's Rich Dad's way out? How do you get off the wheel?
The solution, he says, is clear, and it goes back to financial literacy. You have to understand and actively manage your own finances.
Your personal financial statements.
Exactly. Your income statement, what comes in, what goes out, and your balance sheet, what you own, assets, versus what you owe, liabilities.
You need that clarity.
You absolutely need that clarity. And then the crucial step, you have to consciously, consistently strengthen your assets column.
Focus on acquiring things that generate income.
Yes. Shift your focus from just earning more to strategically acquiring things that make money for you, independently of you working more hours.
And when does that truly let you escape? What's the milestone?
The milestone, according to Kiyosaki, is when the passive income generated from your assets starts to consistently cover or even exceed your regular monthly expenses.
Ah, so your assets are paying your bills.
Exactly. That's the point of true financial freedom. That's when you've effectively gotten out of the rat race.
Okay. But how does just tracking things and buying assets actually break the cycle? What's the mechanism? It sounds simple, but it feels like a huge leap for most people.
It's about shifting from being reactive to being proactive with your money.
Right. Definitely that.
Most people are reactive. Money comes in, bills get paid automatically or as they arrive, and then you just hope there's something left over for saving or investing.
Right. Saving is the leftover category.
Kiyosaki flips it. By tracking, you gain clarity. Then, by consciously deciding to build assets, things that will generate future income, you're proactively directing your money.
You're telling your money where to go first.
Exactly, towards wealth creation.
Yeah.
You're not just hoping something's left, you're strategically building a future where your money works for you. And that frees up your time, your energy from that constant grind. It's about deliberate intention.
Intentionality, got it.
And that leads perfectly into rule number 4, which feels revolutionary to many.
Okay.
Pay yourself first.
I've heard this one. It sounds simple, but it really goes against the grain, doesn't it?
Completely against the grain. Think about the standard poor dad advice, the advice most financial planners give. First, pay all the bills.
Then save whatever is left.
Right. And as the source points out, often nothing is left. Or very little.
It makes saving feel like an afterthought, something you do if you're lucky that month.
Exactly. It puts your own financial future last in line. You're paying the landlord, the credit card company, the grocery store. Everyone else gets paid before you pay your future self.
Okay, so what's the rich dad alternative?
It's radical, he says. As soon as you receive money, your paycheck, whatever the very first thing you do is put a portion into your investment and savings accounts.
Before paying bills?
Before paying bills. Then, he says, you figure out how to pay the remaining bills with what's left.
Wow, that sounds stressful. Maybe even irresponsible to some. What if there isn't enough left for bills?
That's the point. It forces discipline. It forces creativity. It makes your financial future non-negotiable.
So it's not just about saving. It's about prioritizing your own wealth building above all other expenses.
Precisely. You're treating your future self as your most important creditor. You make that commitment first.
And how does that help practically? Does it just force you to cut back elsewhere?
Often, yes. But it also forces you to be more resourceful. Maybe you negotiate bills, find ways to increase income, or just become much more conscious about where the rest of your money is going. It builds financial muscle.
It's a proactive declaration. My financial growth comes first, rather than being a passive recipient of whatever's left over.
Exactly. It's a powerful habit shift.
Okay, what's next on the list? Rule 5.
Rule 5. Overcoming fear and greed. Kiyosaki identifies these two powerful emotions as major drivers of poor financial decisions.
Fear and greed, the classic market movers.
Totally. On one side, you have fear specifically, that paralyzing fear of losing money.
Yeah, that stops people cold. The what if I invest and lose it all feeling.
Exactly. It keeps people in low-yield savings accounts, or just avoiding investing altogether. Stuck in stagnation because the fear of loss outweighs the potential for gain.
And the other side, greed.
Greed. That desire to get rich quick, overnight success.
Chasing hot tips, crypto schemes, penny stocks, hoping for that moonshot.
Right. And that often leads to impulsive decisions, taking huge risks without understanding them, and frequently losing big time.
So Rich Dad says we need to control these emotions.
He says we have to rise above them. Fear stops you from starting. Greed makes you reckless.
And how do we do that? How do we control such primal feelings when money is involved?
His answer comes back to Rule 2. Financial education. True financial literacy.
Knowledge is power over emotion.
That's the argument. It's not about eliminating fear or greed. We're human, after all. It's about understanding their influence and making rational, informed decisions despite them.
But how specifically does knowledge fight fear or greed? What's the mechanism?
Well, think about it. Education gives you a framework for risk assessment. If you understand an investment, how it works, the potential downsides, the historical performance, you can tell the difference between a calculated risk and just a wild gamble. That knowledge reduces the unknown that feeds fear.
Makes sense. You're less afraid of what you understand.
Exactly. And education fosters patience. Greed thrives on impatience, wanting it all now. But when you understand compounding, market cycles, how real wealth is built steadily over time.
You're less likely to fall for the get-rich-quick scam.
Right. And finally, education builds confidence. Knowing why you're making a specific investment decision based on solid principles makes you less likely to panic sell during a downturn, fear, or jump onto a crazy bandwagon. Greed.
You trust your analysis more than your gut reaction.
Precisely. You develop an internal compass.
Okay, that's a compelling argument for lifelong learning, which leads nicely into
Rule number 6, education in investing and business. And here Kiyosaki draws another sharp contrast between traditional schooling and the education needed for financial freedom. He argues, look, school mostly teaches us to be good employees.
Follow instructions, work within the system, value job security, be a reliable cog.
Exactly. But Rich Dad, Poor Dad, he says, aims to teach us something different. How to be good investors and good entrepreneurs.
People who create the systems, not just work in them.
Yes. People who build wealth proactively, independently.
So what kind of education is he advocating for specifically?
It's about continuous practical learning in 2 key areas. First, investing. You have to actively learn how to make your money grow. Stocks, real estate, bonds, whatever. Understand how these assets work and how to invest wisely.
Not just keeping it in the bank.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
Second, business. He strongly encourages people to consider starting their own business, even a small one.
Why is that so important in his view?
Because it gives you invaluable hands-on experience. You learn about systems, cash flow, managing people or processes. Critically, you learn how to have things work for you instead of always working for someone else.
It shifts your identity from just employee to owner, creator.
Exactly. Even a small side business teaches those principles.
So it's a very active approach to education, not just passive learning, but applying it.
Absolutely. It's not a one-and-done college course. It's a lifelong process. Acquire knowledge, adapt, apply it, learn from results, repeat.
And that emphasis on systems in business seems key. It's not just about trading your own skill, but building something scalable.
Yes. Building structures that generate value and income beyond your own direct hours. That's where the real leverage and passive income potential comes from. It fosters a whole different way of thinking.
Okay, so those are the core rules of the Rich Dad game. But the book doesn't just paint a rosy picture, does it? It talks about obstacles.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very realistic about the challenges. Rich Dad, Poor Dad outlines 5 common obstacles that stop people cold on their journey to financial independence. Like a minefield you have to navigate.
What's the first one? Probably fear again.
You guessed it. Obstacle number 1, fear. Specifically, that paralyzing fear of losing money we talked about.
It's a huge blocker. People are terrified of making a mistake with their hard-earned cash.
Totally. What if I invest and it tanks? What if I pick the wrong thing? It keeps people frozen, stuck in safe but low-growth places, preferring the known stagnation over the unknown potential, warts and all.
So how does Kiyosaki suggest people overcome this fundamental fear?
It's a combination of things. First, get educated. Understand what you're investing in. Reduce the unknown.
Knowledge dispels fear.
Right. Second, start small. Don't bet the farm on your first investment. Build confidence with smaller amounts. Third, learn to take calculated risks. Understand the potential downside. Manage it.
Not just blind leaps.
Exactly. And crucially, learn from every mistake. Don't see a loss as failure. See it as tuition paid for a valuable lesson.
Reframe mistakes as learning opportunities. That builds resilience.
Precisely. It helps you build resilience and knowledge rather than just reinforcing the fear. You slowly desensitize yourself by learning to manage risk intelligently.
Okay, fear is a big one. What's obstacle number 2?
Cynicism. That default negativity. Finding fault with every opportunity.
That'll never work, or it's probably a scam reflex.
Exactly. Or only rich people can do that. This pessimism stops people from even exploring potentially good ideas, let alone acting on them. They defeat themselves before they start.
Self-sabotage by default negativity. How do you fight that?
His advice is interesting. He talks about your environment. Surround yourself with positive, action-oriented people.
Your network influences your mindset.
Hugely. Also, actively seek out and draw inspiration from success stories. People who did make it work, who overcame challenges. And fundamentally, you have to cultivate belief in yourself, your ability to learn and succeed.
So manage your inputs, the people, the stories, and work on your internal belief system.
Exactly. Negativity is contagious, but so is positivity and possibility. Curate your influences.
Makes sense. Obstacle 3.
Laziness. but maybe not the way you first think.
Not just sitting on the couch?
Not necessarily. It's more about inertia when it comes to financial education or taking action.
Yeah.
That I'll look into that tomorrow feeling.
Procrastination, the killer of financial dreams.
Precisely. It seems too complicated. I don't have time right now. These keep people stuck. Their money stays stagnant, assets don't get built, freedom remains distant. It's resistance to doing the initial work.
So how do you overcome that inertia?
Practical steps. Set small, achievable goals first. Get some quick wins to build momentum.
Breakdown.
Exactly. Make yourself accountable. Tell some of your goals, a mentor, a friend, anyone who can help you stick to it. And consciously fight that not now habit. Just start.
Small steps, consistently taken. Consistency over intensity.
That's the idea. Make it less daunting, more sustainable.
Okay. What's obstacle number 4?
Bad habits. Those ingrained financial patterns that work against you.
Like the pay bills first, save last habit we talked about.
Exactly like that. That's a prime example. It directly contradicts pay yourself first. These seemingly small, everyday habits can seriously sabotage your long-term wealth building.
Yeah.
They keep you locked in the rat race cycle.
So it's about recognizing and changing those patterns.
Yes, the recommendation is clear. Analyze your habits honestly. Where does your money actually go? What are your default behaviors? Then you have to intentionally, systematically change them.
It requires self-awareness and discipline?
Absolutely. Kiyosaki argues financial success isn't usually about one big windfall. It's built on consistent, deliberate, positive actions. Good habits repeated over time. You basically build a system where good decisions become more automatic.
Automate your wealth building through habits. Got it. And the final obstacle, number 5.
Number 5 is a dangerous one. Arrogance.
Arrogance. How does that fit in?
It's that mindset of, I already know everything.
Yeah.
Thinking you've got it all figured out. You don't need to learn anything new about money or investing.
Closing yourself off to new information or different perspectives?
Exactly. And in the financial world, which is constantly changing new technologies, new regulations, economic shifts, that's incredibly dangerous. It leads to missed opportunities, sticking with outdated strategies, just getting left behind.
Leaving your current knowledge is enough.
Right. So the solution Kiyosaki proposes is intellectual humility.
Stay curious. Always be learning.
Always be ready to learn. Cultivate that beginner's mind, even if you have experience.
Yeah.
The world changes, markets change. Humility keeps you open, adaptable, and allows for continuous progress. It reinforces that idea of lifelong financial education being absolutely essential.
You can never know it all, especially with money.
Never.
Okay, so we've covered the 2 bads, the core rules, the obstacles. What's the big takeaway here? What does this all mean for someone listening?
Well, I think the main thing is that Rich Dad, Poor Dad, as we've unpacked it, really isn't just a book about money tips. It's much bigger than that.
It's a call for a mindset shift, a fundamental change in perspective.
Exactly. It challenges those deep-seated beliefs we inherit about work, security, and wealth. It's trying to empower you, the listener, to become the master of your financial destiny.
Instead of feeling like money controls you or you're just a slave to the paycheck cycle.
Right. It inspires you to actively build assets, to prioritize financial literacy, and crucially, to question that traditional thinking that keeps so many people stuck in the rat race.
So if you are listening and you feel stuck or you genuinely want your money to start working for you, this philosophy, this deep dive, offers a really solid starting point, doesn't it?
An excellent starting point. And maybe a good question to reflect on after this is, what's just one small, actionable thing you could do starting today to begin shifting your mindset?
Yeah, even if it's just rethinking your personal definition of an asset versus a liability based on that cash flow idea, that alone can be powerful.
It really can. Just take a moment, maybe later today, and think.
Yeah.
How much of your current financial thinking, your habits, your goals, is based on that inherited poor dad advice, the safe path?
And then let yourself wonder.
Yeah, wonder what new possibilities, what different approaches the rich dad philosophy might open up for you if you just dared to change some of those fundamental definitions about money in your own life.
Sometimes the biggest changes start just with a new way of thinking, a new perspective.
Exactly. The journey often begins not with changing your job, but just changing your thoughts.